You're listening to 50 Pirates in 50 Days on the Sports Objective Podcast. A new era of East Carolina football is here and will begin on August 31st when Mike Houston leads the Pirates into action at NC State. Between now and then, join us for a daily trip down memory lane as we experience Pirate football through the words of the men who made those memorable moments happen. Here's your host, Bubba Rosenbaum.
Welcome into the Sports Objective Podcast. Our 50 Pirates in 50 Days series rolls on. I'm Bubba Rosenbaum and Kyle from LaGrange Barbers alongside. Today we're very excited to be catching up with Jerris McPhail, running back from 1993 to 1995. Jerris, welcome into the show.
Yes, sir. How you doing?
Doing well. Appreciate your time. Appreciate you coming on to talk about your time in the purple and gold back in the mid-'90s. And so let's just start right there. I know you had an excellent career at Clinton High School. Strong tradition there. A lot of running backs have come out of Clinton. And you actually initially, before you came to East Carolina, had gone to Wake Forest. And I know, I think I've heard Coach Logan kind of tell that story on the radio at some point. But for our listeners, tell them about your career at Clinton and then your recruitment coming out of high school.
You know, at the end of the day, coming out of high school, man, I had a great time for one. Had a lot of options coming out of high school, had an opportunity to pretty much play for any ACC school that I wanted to play for. But they all wanted me to play cornerback. But, of course, you know, I wanted to play running back. I thought, you know, you get more ladies if you played on the offensive side of the ball, and I was excited about that. And so, man, I decided to get that offensive thing a look. And, you know, East Carolina and Wake Forest coming out of high school was pretty much the only ones that was recruiting me to actually play running back. But I decided I wanted to play in the ACC, and I said, man, I'm going to go ahead and go to Wake Forest because not only did Wake Forest give me the opportunity to play running back, they also were going to let me play basketball. So me and a good friend of mine, Scooter Banks, we decided to go as a little tag team, and he was going to play football, and he was going to play basketball also, and I was going to do the same. But, you know, in high school, man, you know, with Clinton having a great tradition and, you know, just being what it was and you being one of the little local stars around there, man, you know, I felt like I was on top of the world. And as soon as I got to Wake Forest and those guys started hitting me in the mouth, man, I said football is not for me. So it's like basically, man, I just gave it up, man. I actually quit. And, you know, a lot of people don't know that, but had an opportunity to play football at Wake Forest University, and I quit. One night they came in, they was having a bed check, and I think it was probably about 11 o'clock we had to be in. By 11:15, I was on I-40 headed east, going back to Clinton, man. And that was a long ride. Went back to Clinton and decided I was just going to, you know, work around town and just be a playground celebrity. And some of the coaches from Wake Forest, they came back to my house the very next morning. They was like, man, you got to come back. You got to come back. And, you know, a lot of people know, man, when you don't do things at your own will and you just do it for somebody else, 9 times out of 10, it don't work out. So went back to Wake Forest, and I probably stayed another 2 more weeks, and then I just quit completely. And then, you know, I sort of thought I was going to get lost in the shuffle, you know, decided I wanted to go home and really just stay at home. And I couldn't believe it, but I was, 3 hours away from Clinton, you know, going to Winston-Salem, and I thought I was, 18 hours away. I was homesick. So it was crazy. I came back. And, you know, everybody was like, man, you gave up a scholarship. You know, the embarrassment started coming. And then, man, I said, man, I got to get back in this thing somehow. So I actually went to Mount Olive College and played basketball for a semester because basketball was my first love. Played basketball for a semester, and back in them days, Mount Olive was definitely not as nice as it is now. And I got there, I learned real fast, man, I wanted to play football. And I went to East Carolina, talked to Coach Logan. Coach Logan was like, look, we're not going to give you a scholarship. You got to earn your way. And so, man, I went out there, and I was hungry. I was like, man, I really miss football. I was hungry. So I went out there, man. I really started killing those guys on defense. And Coach Russ pulled me to the side. He said, listen, man, you know, normally your situation, you pretty much a practice dummy, but I'm going to make sure they don't hit you. And I knew when Coach Ruffin told me that, I said, man, I might be on to something. So, you know, I walked on and had a pretty good career at East Carolina, man, did some great things. We won Liberty Bowl, and it was a great opportunity. Great opportunity for me, man. I had some real good times at East Carolina. Definitely did.
Jerris, you went into your senior season taking over for Junior Smith, who had a hell of a career here before you, and you had played some relieving Jared or relieving Junior for lack of a better term, but you kind of became the man in the '95 season. Talk about taking over as the starting role in '95 for Junior Smith.
Man, there was a lot of pressure for one because, man, Junior was a hell of a running back, man. I've never seen someone with his stature to do some of the things that he did, and it was some major holes to fill, but, Junior was always my ear, so that was a good thing. And then we had a real good supporting cast around us, but, there was a lot of pressure, and, coming from being more of a specialty back and playing some special teams and a reliever to the full-time job, mentally I had to change. I had to think totally different. I had to be more of a vocal leader, which I was always one that I wanted to lead by example. But then I had to step into that sort of vocal stage, and it was a little different, but it was worth it. Guys saw how I worked, saw what I was doing, and everybody just sort of started doing their own thing, and we became one big unit. So it really worked out for us, but it was a lot of pressure. But I just learned now, man, with anything in life, man, there's going to be some pressure. You just got to overcome it.
In that '95 season, some of the games that really come to mind, that's obviously the comeback at Syracuse. But as far as you, I know, I guess it's the first home game that season against Central Michigan. You busted out on, was it about a 70-yard touchdown run?
And you know what? You guys put me on the spot, man. I've been banged around. Man, I've been knocked out a few times. So a lot of those runs I don't remember. But whenever you sort of mention it, sort of bring back a little bit. But I guess I could pick them and put them down, because I was the type I think, could pretty much change the game. We could be on a -2 and I could take it 98 yards if I had to. So that was always a good thing. And being able to be a game changer and being a specialty player, that's really one of the things that actually got me into the league as well.
Go ahead, Kyle. I'm sorry.
I was going to ask you, you said, remember an individual plays isn't that easy. I want to ask you about a specific game, and I don't have your stats of how well you did in that game, but it was just a game that was memorable from that '95 season to me. What do you remember about that game at Southern Miss in Hattiesburg in '95 where Chad Holcomb fakes the field goal, and then the Southern Miss gets called for pass interference and kick the field goal last second to win it? Do you remember that game well? Somewhat. Because they kicked the field goal to win it, right?
No, we did. Yeah, well, I mean, we actually won that game. Yeah. Chad. It was funny because this was before the whole big social media thing, and Chad he was getting some crazy phone calls from some diehard fans too. Because it was a little crazy. Whenever we lost, but whenever we won that game, it was major. It was a pressure kick to him. But one thing I just remember about Southern Miss, man, it's like Southern Miss, and in high school it was Wallace Rosehill. Man, those guys would knock your head off. They hit so hard, man. I do remember that. But that was an exciting game to play in, man. And Chad coming through for us, man, it was one of those deals that sort of gave us momentum into the very next game too as well. So it was a big game for us.
That's one of those things, like Kyle says, I remember exactly where I was, and my dad and I listened to that on the old boom box, I guess you would say, that night from down in Hattiesburg. Unbelievable finish. Another game that I really recalled about your career, senior day against Memphis. You had a big game, maybe about 150, 200 yards, and that was one that really clinched the Liberty Bowl berth in '95.
Yeah, that game against Memphis. Now, I do remember bits and pieces about that, and that was 200 plus. Man, I think it was like 211 yards or something like that.
Right, right.
A couple long runs, and we were able to, just bring that just a winning environment to, the hometown and being able to get the opportunity to play in the Liberty Bowl, man. And it was crazy, man. We really felt like rock stars, man. It was wild, and have a breakout game to sort of, set myself up not only for us to go to the Liberty Bowl, but to show, at the next level, I can take it the distance, man. It was major for us.
Yeah, you talk about that Liberty Bowl in '95, getting a chance to play Stanford on ESPN on New Year's Eve, and then beating Stanford in the Liberty Bowl. What do you remember about that trip, going out to Memphis, the bowl game, the festivities, and the game itself?
Man, one thing, man, I always tell everybody, man, Coach Logan was a offensive genius to me. He was one of the guys, man, that really studied the game. He just knew the game like just inside and out. And he put us all in the position to win. And he would always tell us, we're going to win this game in the fourth quarter. And we were crazy enough just to believe that. With his offensive genius, man, and some of those guys on defense, man, we were able to do some major things. And to win that Liberty Bowl game, man, it was big. And, man, we were just so happy to win it, not only for ECU, but to win it for Coach Logan, man. Because, like I said, Coach Logan, man, he was an offensive wizard, man.
Coach Logan was always intense, Jerris. He always seemed so intense anyway. In his post-game press conferences, I think of some of the things he said all over the years. He was always so quotable. You talk about his offensive genius. Just talk about his demeanor at practice and dealing with him in one-on-one situations. Was he the character, that he came across as in media, in practice, or what was he like, away from the media on the practice field?
He would always tell us, it's one of those deals where he would tell us one thing in the locker room, and then he'll let us know pretty much, how he was going to do things in the media. So, of course, he was telling the media one thing, but he was telling us something totally different, man, because, man, we were just buying into everything that he said. Because, one of the things that he used to do, he would always talk about Proverbs, the Bible. He would always go back to that, man. He was just a well-rounded person. And it was somewhat of a father figure because, a lot of us came from broken homes, and a lot of us, didn't really know how to become a man, didn't even know what the sort of team concept was, man. But dealing with Coach Logan, it really brought a lot of that out of us and sort of helped us in our life now, and then definitely helped us back in those days, winning football games.
Jerris, you said early on at Wake Forest that you didn't really like the contact so much, but as you went on, not only did you run a 4.3, I believe it was, I certainly remember you running physically as well.
Yeah, at that level, coming to the game, because in high school I was like really physical. In college, somewhat physical, but I had to sort of change my game in the pros because, of course, everybody's fast, everybody's big, everybody's hitting hard. So you had to become a little more shifty. And then, going into the pros, I thought NFL meant National Football League, but it actually meant not for long. So you get out there and you get banged around a few times, as most of us do, get a few injuries. Next thing you know, you're on a chopping block. But, one thing about it, my speed, that's why, I can always tell well, I have daughters, but I can always tell the kids that I talk to, I might not look like it now, but I could pick them up and put them down back in the days with best of them.
Jerris, you played, I remember you playing for the Dolphins. How many years did you play in the league?
I was down in Miami. I got released in my third year. Had a couple foot surgeries down in Miami. And then the very day that Miami released me, Detroit Lions picked me up. And I went down to Detroit. So, I figured I could beat out this running back down in Detroit, man, but he was pretty average. Barry Sanders. You guys know Barry?
Yeah. Heard of him.
Yeah, Barry Sanders was down in Detroit, man. So, just having the opportunity to play in the league and to play with, man, my locker was right beside Barry Sanders, man, Hall of Fame running back, hanging out with those guys, touchdown pass, catching a touchdown pass from Hall of Famer Dan Marino. Man, stuff like that you can never take away, man. Even though my career was not that long in the NFL, it was definitely longer than the average. But to be able to have some of those moments and to be able to do some of those things, man, it was amazing, man, amazing.
Jerris, obviously with the Miami Dolphins, you crossed paths with Dan Marino. So what can you tell us about having the opportunity to play with a tremendous quarterback like Dan Marino?
Oh, Dan, man, he was cool, man. Off the field, he was one of the best guys you can hang around with and sort of cut up with. But on the field, he was strictly business. And, Dan was Italian, man, so you already know every other word was one of those bombs, you know what I mean? But he was a real good guy, man. Real good guy, real down to earth. Playing with a Hall of Famer, and the conversation that we would have, and the way he tried to motivate, it was a real good experience, man. Real good.
Talking about some of your teammates at East Carolina, I'm gonna throw some names out at you. Tell me what you remember about them. We'll start off with the easy one. Marcus Crandall.
Mark Crandall? Oh, man, I still talk to Mark. I talked to Mark C. I think it was last week. Mark C. smooth, man. So that's when I think Mark C. I think Mark C. is smooth. Off the field, on the field, being able to thread that needle, having that gunslinger mentality. Yeah, Mark C. was smooth, definitely.
What about Larry Shannon?
Larry, the white chocolate. Yeah, yes, Larry. Man, look, Larry, jump out the gym, man, and of course, Larry went on to play in the NFL as well. Yeah. But man, one of the best athletes I've been around, definitely.
Bubba, you got something?
Any others? Yeah, I thought you might have another player you're going to throw at him, but I guess Coach Shula finished up in Miami, in '95. So I'm trying to recall, who was the head coach of the Dolphins when you were there?
Jimmy Johnson. Jimmy
Johnson. Yeah.
Yeah, he left the Cowboys and came to the Dolphins. And one thing about Jimmy, man, Jimmy was a cutthroat, no nonsense type guy, and he sort of wanted to build his own thing. So the good thing about that was, that first draft he had, which was me and Zach Thomas and I think Jason Taylor, Sean Wood, and all those guys. We were sort of his diamonds in the rough. He was known for taking some low-round draft picks, man, and really, high-round draft picks, low-round draft picks, and turn them into to superstars. And he was just no nonsense. For example, we were in a meeting one time, and he actually told me, he said, listen, he said, Jerris, he said, now, this is the thing. You can't fall asleep in the meetings. He said, if Dan falls asleep in the meetings, he said, I'm going to wake him up. But if you fall asleep in the meetings, you're going to get cut. He said, so I'm going to treat everybody fair, but I'm not going to treat everybody the same. And, man, I remember that to this day. So that's my whole motto, too, now being in the business world. I'm going to treat everybody fair, but I ain't treating everybody the same.
Now you talk about being in the business world. After your time in the NFL, bring Pirate Nation up to speed on what you're doing now. I know you're doing some stuff in the fitness world.
Yeah, one thing, man, as far as the whole stats with professional athletes, see, that's why you have to have a backup plan, because I think it's like 85% of all professional athletes. It's, whether it's Major League Baseball, football, basketball, doesn't matter. 5 years after they retire, the guys are broke. And, a lot of guys, some guys, love to coach, and some guys have to coach. I was fortunate to always have that business mind and that business mentality. So, I came back to my hometown and started doing some preschools. So I got a couple preschools going on. We've been doing that for like the past 20 years. And then I thought I wanted to coach. And Coach Connors, that was the strength and conditioning coach there at ECU when I was there, he gave me the opportunity to become a grad assistant at UNC. So I was at UNC for like a year and a half. But I realized real quick that I sort of want to do my thing because coaching just took up so much of my time. So not really coaching, but still sort of being in that same realm, I decided to open up some gyms. So we got a little small gym over there in Clinton that we've been doing for like the past 4 to 5 years. And I opened up about 2 years ago in Wallace. And, that gym is definitely taking off for us. We're doing some exciting things, man. And we're just trying to change the world.
Still being in the eastern part of the state, talk about following the Pirates, and then you had the opportunity to get back to Greenville and that sort of thing?
I haven't, but I talked to I just got off the phone with Troy Smith a few minutes ago, which I played with Troy back in the days. Right. Marcus Crandall, Linwood DeBrew, a lot of those guys are going to be in Raleigh, I think, for the East Carolina NC State game. And we're all going to link back up, and we're going to start doing some things. I also work out over in Cary, and when I'm not in the gym and over in Clinton, I work out over at Cary, and me and Robert Jones, we work out a lot. So we're going to start going back and going to a lot of the games, man, and start showing the face around there. Definitely.
Awesome. That's what new head coach Mike Houston, he and his staff are really embracing the football letter winners like yourself. And so I know that's something that has to excite you guys. Well,
at the end of the day, in situations like that, it's almost like now we have the kids. So we have the kids that can become, that Division I football player, So, why not sort of bring us back in and our kids sort of follow in our same footsteps. So I think that's going to be a good look, man. But I'm excited about Pirate football this year, man. Nice change. Everything's going to be looking good.
Well, just in general, I think that just as me editorializing, I think, when you got guys like you, Jerris, and, I've told several players this, that has success here, and played at the next level. I mean, these guys, they can do nothing but benefit from being around guys like you. If you go out there, and you're at practice and watch a practice, I mean, you've done it. You've won a Liberty Bowl here. You played in the league. I mean, we need that around these kids. We need guys like you and Crandall and some of the guys from the 91 team. I mean, it's nothing but a good thing.
Oh, yeah, all the way around. Because like I said, not only from just them being around us, because, at the end of the day, I really feel like success breeds success. And also, a recruiting tool. A lot of guys, they want to, make it to that next level. So when you got kids or players that's been to that next level that's sitting right in front of them, they can say, okay, I'm going to go to ECU. I got an opportunity to make it to the next level.
Absolutely.
Something else really cool that Coach Houston is doing, in addition to reaching out to some of our, a lot of our football letter winners, is doing what he can to recognize our tradition and success on the walls of the Ward Building and Dowdy Ficklin Stadium and what have you.
Yeah, man, that's definitely big. I think I was talking to Robert not too long ago, and he was like, man, because I haven't been to ECU in a while, being busy, up and down the East Coast doing some things. He said right now, if I was to be dropped in the middle of East Carolina campus, I wouldn't even know my way out. So I'm like, man, I got some brushing up to do, man. Big time.
Well, Jerris, hopefully we'll see you back in Greenville soon. I know Kirk Dahl, who's coached here and played here, he's kind of been tasked with the position of kind of reaching out to former players and such. Mm-hmm. So hopefully you'll be hearing from him soon, and hopefully we'll see you in Greenville sometime this football season.
Sounds like a plan. We look for the Pirates to do big things this year, definitely.
Absolutely, no doubt about it. Jerris, we really appreciate your time and you sharing some of your memories about playing for ECU back in the mid-'90s, and we look forward to catching up down the road.
Pleasure's mine. I appreciate it, guys.
Absolutely. Pirate Nation, that is Jerris McPhail.
That concludes this edition of 50 Pirates in 50 Days on the Sports Objective. Remember, join us daily between now and game day as we'll talk Pirate football with players from various eras. All these interviews are available exclusively on SoundCloud and our YouTube channel. Remember to subscribe and follow so you're alerted when we post new content. Thank you so much for listening, and as always, go Pirates!